I find this interview actually quite interesting because it gives you an insight into the relationship between Elvis Presley and Priscilla Presley. Let's have a listen.
If you had a problem, could you sit with Elvis? Would he take the time to listen to what was aching you? And could he comfort you?
The three interesting questions asked straight away. Remembering that Priscilla was very young and she's talking about the early years of their relationship. So let's see how this goes on to play out.
I very rarely went to him with any problems.
An unexpected reply that she never went to him for problems, or she rarely went to him for problems. Let's carry on watching.
A very strange relationship. It was a love, but I never wanted to upset him.
This gives us an insight into why things ultimately failed in their relationship, what led to the breakup, the divorce, and her unhappiness. I think she was on tenterhooks around Elvis. Elvis was a very dominant man who wanted his way. He did have a tender side to him, a caring side, and he would listen to people's problems. But I think when it comes to Priscilla Presley, he was different. And I think it's because he knew that his secret life that he had away from her was just wrong.
Because he took it so hard.
Elvis taking it so hard, was this some kind of defense mechanism to cover the truth? Or was it the subject that Priscilla Presley was bringing to him? He was just too busy to deal with it.
If I were to come to him with a problem, it would hurt him deeply.
So we know Elvis was a very sensitive man and would take things the wrong way sometimes and would overreact. So let's see what else she says.
So I worked it out myself.
I'm guessing that Priscilla just eventually learnt to not go to Elvis with these problems and to keep them to herself and just to deal with these things in her own way, away from Elvis. But this obviously was going to cause damage to their relationship.
That must have been very tough on you.
It was tough. But you make it, and you're able to weigh what you want most.
And I think Priscilla just made the best of it, learnt to deal with it. It definitely must have been very difficult for her and very lonely. And who would she turn to? Probably the wives of the Memphis Mafia and Jerry Schilling. But ultimately, it would lead to them separating. So it wasn't going to work. And no matter what we think of Priscilla Presley, good or bad, I think any wife or girlfriend who couldn't properly speak to their partner about their problems, about each other's lives, were going to have a very bumpy ride together and a high chance of not lasting in the relationship. So this does really give us an insight into their relationship. I really think it does. And especially because it's an early 80s interview, so it's still fresh in her mind. So I think we're getting how things were back then for her, in her mind. I think now she might look at things differently now, but that's how she felt back then.
Elvis's happiness meant a lot to me.
I think for a time it did mean a lot to her, and she did everything to try and keep him happy and live a life in the way that she thought he wanted her to. But ultimately, she was going to get older and more mature, more independent, and start to want to do things her way. She had dreams and aspirations, and she had things that she wanted to do in the future that were nothing to do with Elvis. She wanted Elvis to be the perfect husband, but he was away far too often. He excluded her from her life way too often. So we just know that everything was going to go wrong at some point. My last few words on this particular video are, would you have coped under those circumstances? Could you have had a husband like Elvis who found it very difficult to speak to you, please comment. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.